All right, all right, all right. Well, I have with me today on Raising the Grade, Adam Estavillo, owner of Redemption Renovations. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. This is exciting. I've never been on a podcast.
Really?
So.
Yeah, me neither till like 8 weeks ago. It's not that bad. It's just fun to sit down and chat. So top line, I think I kind of went over some of this with you, but it's just so pretty simple. We're just going to be looking for, maybe ways that you, by being a business owner in the trades, are raising the grade. Talk a little bit about yourself, maybe a little bit of your history, and then maybe anything you think might be a goal or something you think you could, see happening in the industry, et cetera. It's not so bad. So who is Adam?
So born and raised, you can't really see the mountain. You can, South Mountain.
Okay.
I was born and raised in Ahwatukee.
Okay.
We were 33 years ago. My parents bought a house in Lakewood and grew up. This is my stomping ground. I went to Desert Vista High School, and little background. I think this kind of leads into how I learned to not give up. Was in high school. I joined. My mom said, "You're lazy, Adam. You're playing too many video games. You need to get out there and you need to join a sport. I don't care what it is.
Okay.
Get into a sport." So I ended up joining the cross country team. Okay. And I had skater shoes first day. Mm-hmm. And yeah,
were you a skater?
I was a big skater. I mean, I skated like, 5th grade all the way up through freshman year, and then sophomore year when I started to run cross country, I kind of put the board down. Mm-hmm. But I remember we did a time trial, and I ran like a 5-minute mile in skater shoes. Mm-hmm. And the coach said, "Hey, you better go get some running shoes, and you're going to be one of my best runners."
How fun!
And I remember that was the first time, I had this Coach Hansen. Mm-hmm. He's still coaching over there, but that was the first time I committed myself to do something difficult. And I mean, I had played sports growing up, but committing myself to getting up at 5 a.m. every day. Mm-hmm. My mom primarily waking me up, like, "Adam, we need to get going."
Yeah, that's fair.
And pushing me, but ended up through cross country getting a scholarship, and we were actually national champions in high school.
Wow!
So I was on the 4x8 team. Daryl Banks, John Klein, Nick Rice, and we set the state record in the 4x8.
How fun!
Relay.
That had to be a fun experience.
I mean, I was like, you're cloud nine. You set the national,
just jacked,
the best time in the nation that year. Mm-hmm. And your team, if you were to compete, our high school team we were full of studs, like state champs, record holders, and it was amazing. So I that experience, putting in from sophomore year, junior year, senior year, and seeing winning all 3 years as well in state in cross country, it showed me like, man, if you put your mind to something, like, I didn't know how good I could be.
Yeah.
I had a little bit of talent, but I ended up putting in so much commitment and time. Mm-hmm. So I ended up running in college, went to a junior college out in Kansas. Okay. And
wow, what a shift from AZ.
I mean, it was snow. Mm-hmm. I had to learn how to drive, when it was a blizzard conditions. I slid out a few times, but I think this is a little bit of why I named my company Redemption Renovations. Okay. So I kind of went off the deep end.
You went to college and went off the deep end?
Yeah, I mean,
say it ain't so.
I know.
Say it ain't so. Okay.
I had freedom. Mm-hmm. My mom wasn't there to say, go to bed. Yeah. Stop, turn off your games, study. Mm-hmm. And my first year, I barely made it through grade wise. I mean, I probably had, a 2.0.
Whoops.
And enough to keep my scholarship, but second year.
Oh, that's right. You had extra pressure because you were on a oh boy.
Yeah, full ride.
Oh
and
boy.
My parents gave me money for rent and food, and it was all up to me. And the second year just ended up kind of squandering my opportunity. Okay. Moved back to Arizona. My mom drove me back. She's like, "You're coming back home." And I said, "What am I going to do with myself?"
I think I'd like to interview your mom the way this is going.
Yeah, this was was humbling. You know, I had an opportunity to get a degree. Didn't realize how very few people get these opportunities.
Sure.
And so I moved back home, asked my dad, "Hey dad, can I work for you?" And at the time he's been a real estate broker for over 20 years.
Okay.
He was flipping houses. He had a business, so he would purchase distressed properties here in Phoenix, Gilbert, Chandler, Mesa.
Okay.
And he would basically gut them and cosmetic, nothing additions, but he would end up putting he would put money into 30, 40,000 and end up selling them and make double, triple his money.
Yeah.
And I said, this is pretty interesting. You're taking something that is a property that's so distressed and you're creating value, giving someone a really nice home. So I ended up working with him for a year and a half.
So 22, 23-ish.
No, this was, what year was this?
Oh, no, were you 22, 23 years old? Kind of.
No, when I went to college at 17.
Years. Okay.
I turned 18 in the middle of my first semester. Oh, dang. So I was like 19 maybe. Okay. And I worked with him until I was about 20, 21.
Okay.
And we butted heads a lot, so
wow.
I mean,
you and your dad butted heads.
My dad is very similar to me.
Yeah.
And he would.
I love you, son.
I love you, son. Get this done, Dad. How do I do this? No one's taught me how do I demo tile with this jackhammer? Just figure it out. Figure it out. And anyways, I learned a lot of valuable skills working for my dad. I learned how to oversee a job, the demo phase, what trades go in the proper order.
Yeah.
But I wanted to do my own thing still. I still was like, I need to get my own job. Sure. And so I ended up working at Chase Bank, learning the ins and outs. And then at Chase Bank, that was really where I saw that all these business owners, they were doing really well. Like all the trades, especially I had a painter, landscapers, and they were constantly bringing in large deposits. And I would ask them questions. When did you start your business? How, how many employees do you have? How did you get started? And I would ask all of these customers, I would pick their brains, and they loved it. They loved talking about their business.
You are a brain picker, and you're right. I love that. Yes.
There's like, oh, this is my baby. Of course I'm going to, I started it back when I was, 18, didn't even go to college, got my trailer. Now I have, 4 trucks, 8 guys. We're doing, we'll do $1 million this year. I'm like blown away by these hardworking, men in the trades. There's obviously women business owners, but primarily the trades were these great guys. And at that moment, I was, making at 20 years old, 30,000 salary at Chase, busting my butt. And I wasn't seeing a quarter or a fifth of what these business owners. I was like, man, I think I could. My dad would constantly tell me, son, you never want to, if you can, you want to work for yourself. You don't want to work for somebody. Create your own schedule. Your ceiling is it's what you make of it. You set the bar. So after working in Chase Bank for about 2 years, I had a big change in my life where I started to pray a lot more, started to seek God, what do you want me to do with my life? Like for me, I had been doing what Adam wanted to do. And I finally opened up and I wanted to use my talents to really glorify God. And
amen.
And I was drawn to apply to this university out in Ohio, Franciscan. One of my good friends, Andrew, he was my roommate at the time while I was at Chase. He ended up going to this small private Catholic university out there, encouraged me, said, hey, they have a great business department, theology department. Like this is a great university. It's small.
Where was it at?
In Steubenville, Ohio.
Ohio, okay.
So it's on the tri-state border. You got Pennsylvania, West Virginia, and Ohio.
Okay.
So we were like right there, right on the river that separates the 3 cities.
Okay.
And ended up flying out there. I told my boss, hey, I'm giving you 2 weeks. And they were distraught because at the time I was bringing in a lot of the revenue in the branch. I would sit in the office and cold call business owners and people that haven't been in the branch. And anyways, went off to college, and I was actually going to discern. I was like, hey, I don't know what you have in my plans for my life, but I just know I need a good education. I'm ready to serve you if it means even being a priest. I was open to whatever God wanted.
Okay.
And that first year, my mom said, hey, even if you're going to serve God in that way, you still need to have business sense and know how to financially manage a budget. So why don't you study business?
Okay.
And I committed to that. And while I was working, I got to the school, and at the end of the first year, I met Nina. And
I've heard that name before.
Nina is my wife. And now, at the time I met her, and I was blown away by her beauty. We ended up, I hadn't dated anybody that whole year. I was committed to just praying and studying and working out and getting, just getting right with balance in my life. Yeah. And after that first night, we talked for 3 or 4 hours. I went home, and I told
How'd you meet her?
We met
it's just like
at the cafeteria.
Okay.
Yeah, we were going in, and my best friend and one of her best friends were dating.
Yeah.
And we just connected. We met and started talking. We actually went and said a group, prayer together and talked the whole night. And I told my best friend, I told one of my best friends, like, I just met my future wife.
Wow.
And like, I knew it immediately. Wow. So yeah, I was just, at that moment, I was convinced that God was preparing her and me to start a family together. And so I knew right at that point, I was like, okay, I need to work. I need to save up and get this ring, prepare for a ring. So I got a job working for a local painter in Ohio.
Okay.
And his name was Matt. He was a grad of the university, and he would hire the college kids to come out and paint houses, paint interiors. And he had a, power washing business. So he would, really nice guy. He didn't have a lot of systems in place. Okay. And it was a little chaotic.
Yeah. It's a little crazy.
It was kind of crazy. I mean, he would send me to a job, 40 minutes away, and then I'd drive an hour, and then I would be on a roof painting a chimney, power washing, bulldozer at the mine. Like he was all over the place, but he had all the business in this small town. And that kind of opened my eyes to saying, well, like painting, there's not a big barrier to entry to painting.
Probably and one of the lower ones.
Yeah. If you show up and you're honest and you do a good job, I think I could put systems in place and be a lot more successful if I ever did this in the future. So that kind of planted the seed.
Okay.
And then we moved. So I worked that summer, 3 jobs. So I had another job at the university. And then I was basically just trying to save up all my money to buy a ring for her.
Okay.
Finally did that.
Good man.
And we studied abroad in Austria for our last semester in college.
Cool.
So it was amazing because it opened my eyes to the architecture.
Oh yeah.
Like Italy.
Something else over there.
Vienna, the art museums and the buildings, like they're some are 1,000 years old and they're strong. They're built well.
Yep.
And so much thought into designing, flying buttress, everything.
It's insane.
Yeah, the beauty there. I was blown away. I'm like, America is so ugly. Like
unfortunately,
unless you're seeing these historic homes that are built really well, our buildings are built so quick.
Yeah, more production, more functional. Definitely not that.
Yeah, not that
whole
at
different
all.
Mindset in culture and everything. Right.
Yeah. They're like the Renaissance period. But I went to. What is it? Vienna? No, not Vienna. Where Michelangelo carved the statue of David.
Oh, you're quizzing me now.
That is Venice, not Venice. Anyways, I'll think of the town. But regardless, Michelangelo, he carved the Pieta. He carved the statue of David. And I took an art class and I started to look at this guy's life. I'm like, man, he started 13 years old. His parents, they put him into a program where he had a mentor. So he had one of the best mentors that taught him how to do fresco painting, which is you have to paint while the wall is wet, the mortar or the fresco. It's plaster. While the plaster is wet, you apply the paint and it dries and it's a picture. And that's how he painted the Sistine Chapel.
Okay.
So you only have like a certain time period to mix the mud, apply the paint. Once it's dry, if you made a mistake, you have to chisel it out.
Bro,
it's crazy.
Okay. I did not know that. That's a fun little lesson.
Yeah. So Michelangelo, I went and I saw the statue of David, and they have 3 different statues, but I'm going to tie this into how it kind of leads into redemption.
I can kind of see this clicking along here.
So, so I started to fall in love with beauty, buildings, architecture. And then I read about, Michelangelo's life. And essentially he started at 13, had a great mentor. And then he was given this opportunity after he carved the Pieta. He said Florence, the city of Florence commissioned him to carve the statue of David, which is David right before he slays Goliath in the Old Testament. So it was a huge block. I mean, it was like 18 feet tall, and it weighed thousands and thousands of pounds. They had to move it with logs. Once it got moved, it was there until you're done carving, and then they have to move it back carefully. But he started to carve it, and it took him 3 years with the hammer and chisel.
That's insane.
Literally 3 years. He had this vision of what could be in his mind. And everybody, I mean, his parents were like, initially didn't want him to pursue that. They're like, this guy's crazy. Like my son this is not, I'm a noble. His dad was a politician. And they didn't want his son to do that, but he had this desire, and his skill that God had given him was to be a sculptor. He loved to do that. So spent 3 years and created this beautiful statue of David. And I was admiring that. I was thinking back, like, he had a mentor, he had a gift. I'm going to do that. Essentially, I'm going to take this guy's story. I have this idea for a vision of what my company could be in Arizona. I'm going to take what I've learned and apply it to starting a business. It's just right now, it's just a vision in my mind. But if I pick good mentors and if I put a good plan in place, it's going to take years, but I know that I could do this full time and that it will pay off. So after leaving Italy and having these experiences, looking at beautiful art, architecture, I'm like, I'm drawn to this.
You're sold.
I want to do it for my career. I don't know how I'm going to do it in Arizona. It might be painting. It might be, remodeling houses, but I'm going to do it. So moved back to Arizona, and my wife and I, we got married, and then I ended up starting Redemption Painting and Restoration. And that was the first name, and now Redemption Renovations kind of evolved into full house kitchen and bath remodeling. But started with, a Mini Cooper, a paint. Like literally I'm like, I don't have a lot of money to buy equipment, but I'm going to use what I have. So I had a little blue Mini Cooper, and I bought a little giant ladder, a sprayer, brush and roller, and opened up my LLC online. And I said, I have no idea how to get my first job. I'm just going to go do what most people would do and just door knock. So I went around to the ugliest houses in my HOA, and I would knock and say, hey, I'm a painter. Here's my card. Would you like a free estimate? I'm like, yeah, we actually need our house painted. It's about time we got a letter from the HOA. And I was like, great, this is awesome. And I would type up the bid, send it to them. And then I got a couple jobs that way. And I think my first job was a 3,000 square foot house. And I remember I charged like $2,000, $2,100, which they immediately were like, yes, we'll hire you.
Oops.
And it took me and a helper 2 weeks. After I was done with all my paint materials, all the labor and everything was paid out, I ended up making, for 2 weeks, $12 an hour. And
you made some money at that.
I thought
the story was going a different direction right there.
I bought the paint just high enough. I did my math right, but I was like, that took a week longer. I need to charge a lot more. And I realized that the going rate, you know, at the time when I started, this was 8 years ago, is probably closer to 3,500.
I was going to say probably double.
Yeah. 4,000. So I was half the price. And that got me into painting. And then from that standpoint, I got my real estate license.
Oh, wow. I didn't know you had that.
Yeah. My dad, he encouraged me. He's like, hey, you can
of course
get your real estate license. You may end up flipping houses. You can help me, you know, sell houses. So I wanted to have multiple streams of income when I was starting.
Why not?
And
do you still have that, or did you let it go?
I do. Yeah, I still have it.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Cool. So I got my license, and I kind of had my painting business, and I said, well, until this really gains, you know, momentum, and I have 5 jobs at least a month, I don't think I'll be able to provide for my family. So I had my real estate license, and I found a mentor. His name was Kevin, and he was a full-time agent, and he had sold like 50 houses at the time. So I asked if I could join his team, and I was still doing the painting business on the side. And during that time frame, I networked with all of the property managers, all of the realtors. I told them, hey, if you have a customer, I can get in the house without you being there. I can give them a quote. If your sellers need repainting interior, exterior, I started getting a ton of jobs from property managers. And I forgot to mention, at that time, I had paid for, so I didn't have a mentor in person, but I had purchased a class, Painting Business Pro.
Wow. Okay.
And that laid out essentially how to build your painting business correctly. So it gives you, you know, pricing, how much to pay your subs. It was a model based on based on subcontractors versus employees.
Okay.
You know, how to market, setting up your, you know, your LLC or for tax purposes, you know, taxing it as an S corp. Yeah. All the little tricks that help ultimately save you money and end of the year.
Allow for success. Yeah.
So I implemented some of those tactics or strategies to my business as I was doing real estate. And I learned a lot. I mean, I essentially was selling painting jobs, showing houses. I was kind of doing double.
Would have made a good
duty.
Sitcom right here.
Oh, it was kind of wild, because I would go show a house, and then I would run after the showing. I would run to a job site and check on the guys, and sometimes I'd be working, clean up, you know, go to a listing appointment. So I was doing everything I could to make sure that my wife could stay home with our firstborn at this time. So it took about a year to kind of get into these roles. And I knew that my business, my painting company, could continue to grow if I basically invested back into marketing, into Google Ads, into social media. So as my business continued to take off on the painting side, people started asking me, hey, could you figure out, you know, could you do the countertops for this rental? Could you do the carpet? I'm like, yeah, I'll do it. I didn't have any contacts, but I said, sure, I'll do it. Called my dad. Hey, Dad, who do you use? Can I get their info? And I started to piece together additional jobs. And I had no experience doing those things, but I figured it out. And you choose the right guys, and they can walk you through it and help you.
Well, and with Dad willing to help you, he's been there, done that, already gone down that road, probably has fine-tuned the list. I mean, those are probably good referrals too. Yeah.
And he had great subs. He had built relationships with these guys for years. So I used a lot of his subs, and then it evolved into, can you replace these cabinets? Can you replace this countertops and floor, you know, basically full home guts. So that was about 2 years in is when I started to get jobs for that. And I said, all right, at this time I have the experience. I think that was the time that I said, I want to commit to my company, Redemption Painting, full time. And I'm going to put real estate on the back burner, because I was getting torn between both, and I wanted a good work-life balance.
And I feel like, you've got to commit to one or the other, or you will just be brutalized on both sides. You won't have enough time to, because there's in business, as you well know, there's just so many little things that you need to focus on to be really successful in that in that genre.
Right.
I think it's a rare breed. They're out there, but that could be successful at this and real estate and flipping and, have all these irons in the fire.
Yeah. It got to be too much. You can only, you can't serve two masters. And they were both calling me away from, my family. And I wanted to have Saturdays and Sundays at home.
Yep.
I wanted to work really hard from Monday through Friday and then have that time to refresh and be with my wife and kids. So I ended up telling Kevin, like, hey, I've learned so much, and a lot of his tactics and his ability to teach me essentially how to convey value and to uncover what the customer's needs are and recommend
why you're
solution.
there,
why am I here? What is your purpose? Like, what is your why? Why are you calling me to talk about selling? Are you moving for a death in the family? You're looking to upsize, downsize. Yeah. So understanding what is their purpose for your service, and then suggesting and conveying your professionalism and the solutions that would help them to achieve that goal.
Yeah, love it.
And how you can. So his model of training me to basically be the best I could be as a salesman was I took that over into my painting business.
It plays well everywhere. All the sales books I've read, they usually have a different profession than I've got right now, but it all translates really well.
Yeah, it overlaps, and having that ability to really listen. You're not just there to sell them. You want to understand.
That's the key.
Yeah, a lot of that, and that's, I think early on, it's like you just want to get that first sale, and you're trying to jump from like B&I visibility to profitability, and you haven't really gained credibility with that customer. They don't know you from any other contractor they're getting bids from. So I made the switch. That was, the best thing I could have done. I had success. I did, I sold, I think 16 houses in my first year.
Awesome.
And it was a balancing game between Redemption painting at the time. And my first year in sales of Redemption was, I think it was 32,000. And then the next year I ended up doubling that to 63,000, getting close to my real estate. And then at that point I said, if I'm only putting 10 hours a week into my painting business and I'm generating this much, if I did, 40, 50, 60 hours,
sure, I
could probably get this thing pretty healthy. So when I did the jump in full time and got my license for residential, cosmetic remodeling, I added the DBA, Redemption Renovations. I wanted it to be full service, no additions, but just all cosmetic, any, showers, floors, countertops, cabinets, all of the items that most people want done. And, excuse me. But year 3, we went to 180,000.
Awesome.
And then year 4, I think we surpassed 540. And then year 5, we were at like 900.
Cool.
And then finally year 6, I broke through and hit 1.1 million. And then over $1 million for basically since then.
That's gotta feel good.
Yeah. And it was, primarily myself. And then I did end up hiring, I only had one other sales guy with me for those times that we were hitting those sales. But it kind of, just kind of took off. And I realized, at that time, I wanted to, I switched. So I backtrack a little, between the time of switching from Redemption painting. So that was exterior, interior painting. I saw an opportunity to capture a niche in Arizona that not a lot of other companies were doing, which was refinishing cabinets, like high-end refinishing. Because all the painters that I had seen would go in and blast the cabinets with, a baseboard, door and trim paint. And it would end up peeling and chipping and failing. And I said, I know we can capture a market of people that have really nice cabinets that want to pay for a factory like finish. So how do we get to that point? So I started doing a bunch of research on YouTube, and I found some of the best. Interesting. I found the best cabinet refinishers. One was in Ireland and one was in California. And I reached out to them and I asked, the gentleman in California or in Ireland was Philip McKinney, and he owns kitchen tune-up, or no. kitchen respray is what it's called.
Okay.
So I reached out to him, and at the time he had 20 employees, and they each had a van, and they would each do about a kitchen a week. So he was doing 20 kitchens a week, and I thought I was like, this guy is incredible.
That sounds insane to me, actually.
It was insane.
Yeah.
Like they would take the doors off to the shop, and they had 3 booths. They would spray the doors in the booths, load them back in the cars, and then that one man would tape off the kitchen and spray the bases, install the doors, and he said each guy does a kitchen a week. And I asked him if he would. One
man shows, or was it a guy and a helper?
No, it was one man per kitchen.
Okay, fun.
Yeah, so I reached out to him and I asked him if he would be willing to have lunch with me. And he said yes. And I booked my flight to Ireland.
Oh, wow.
I flew out.
Wow.
Just for lunch. And
what?
Yeah.
Actually?
I did. Yeah. I flew out to Dublin, and I drove to his, he wanted to meet at his office first. And he took me on a whole tour around the whole facility.
He was probably stoked.
He was like, this guy's from America.
Yeah. This is for real.
This is amazing. So I told him, yeah, Philip, I'm passionate about refinishing cabinets. I want to do the highest quality job, and I love your model, and I want to do this in Arizona.
Okay.
And he was all for it. So I bet he took me around and spent 2 days showing me the process from start to finish and how he would do these jobs.
That is so stellar.
Yeah. And today he has 120 guys.
Wow.
So he's literally grown 6 times.
Wow.
And this was back.
How often do you talk to this guy?
Oh, we keep in touch. Maybe every few months I'll message him. But early on, he was there to help me a lot, like answering questions. And I took a ton of notes. And the kitchens are a little different. Over there, Ireland is more of like a condo kitchen. Like their houses are smaller. The kitchens don't have as many doors and drawers. So one guy can do a job in a week, whereas here
2 weeks.
It's 2 guys for a week.
Yeah.
Two guys for a kitchen, and 1 week is pretty good for America's size kitchens.
Yeah.
So
they're so much bigger.
Yeah, he was really generous with his time. He took me over, showed me the process, and then I set up my business here. I bought a van similar to him.
Back up here. Did you did you have to pay for this, or like it just seems so weird to me that some guy would just be like, "Yeah, come on over."
He's like, "I can't believe you flew out to meet me. Like this is
can't
amazing."
Either.
And
have you ever done anything like that before?
No, I
what
even
made
if it was
you
just
book the flight?
I just figured that if I'm going to do this business, like kind of like going back to like Michelangelo, like the vision of David, like I need the best of the best that's doing it and successful. I don't want to talk to any painter that's just spraying cabinets the way that I've seen it done, where it's chipping and failing in a year or 2 years, 3 years. I want it to last 10, 20, 30. Like I want this to be a great kitchen. And all of his videos that I found on YouTube were so top notch. His reviews, the way it
was just clear.
It was just like, this guy has got it nailed down. He's been doing it for 10 plus years at the time that I visited him.
I love the specialist model too, by the way.
I'm going to go to him.
Yeah.
And he was, like I said, when I met with him, we went to dinner, or we went to his shop, took me around, took me to lunch. And then the second day said, okay, we'll go to breakfast and we'll go back to my shop, and spent the whole day, showed me the finishes, the products. And he wants to expand to America. He wanted me to.
How fun.
He wants to do a franchise model.
What are we doing
here at?
When's it coming?
I need a partner.
Oh my gosh!
If anybody watching this, wants to invest and open this franchise, look up Kitchen Respray Ireland and reach out to me. And I can't do it all alone. I've got a wife and 5 kids.
Yeah, 5 you're up to now. I love that.
But this model could blow up. In America, it could blow up.
Okay.
And he said he's willing to franchise and come over and set up exactly what he's doing in Ireland. And it'd be a little different, but we could make it work.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
okay, fun.
Yeah. So I after my visit with him, I set up my shop the very same way as Philip. I hired my first 2 finishers, and within 2 years, I had 12 full-time guys finishing cabinets.
Is that still happening?
So the reason why because I care about my time with my wife and the amount of time it was taking me to run these jobs, they're very labor intensive.
I believe it. Yeah.
So you have a new kitchen,
and time intensive too, like to manage custom. Like
we had 7 to 12 jobs going at one time.
That's brutality, bro.
It was a lot.
It is a lot.
I mean, we had a huge, chart.
Yeah, the whiteboard
as well as apps. But every job, think about this. Every job we were upgrade. Not only would we take the cabinet doors off, we would upgrade their soft close hinges. We would upgrade drawer boxes. Tops? A lot of times.
Were you doing the tops or no?
A lot of times we did the tops, but I'd say half the jobs we would do new countertops. But sometimes we were ordering brand new doors and drawer fronts. So we have a custom door maker. So there's so many pieces to get the puzzle correct that there's a lot of opportunity for there to be errors that
absolutely
would follow me. So it became to the point where a refinishing job would take 2 weeks, start to finish, to get it buttoned up. Whereas we could go do a new kitchen install with ready to assemble cabinets and be in and out in 2 days. And the finish is done. We don't have to paint. We don't have to breathe the chemicals, the fumes. So I started weighing, my time versus this opportunity to grow this and be the master finisher of Arizona. And I said, I'm going to shift more to new cabinets just because I value being home and not having 12 employees that I was babysitting. And that was a lot. I mean, there was not all my employees. They were good, but some of them were. Where are you going to find 12 guys that know how to finish cabinets? Because it's not a very common.
I was going to ask you actually how you hired them, because I was going to do that earlier, but now you're kind of making the point I wanted to make is like that had to be difficult.
It was really difficult, but I would hire people that I would more so hire them based on if I felt that if they had like virtue, if they had fortitude, if they had done difficult things in their life.
Hire for character, train for skill.
I didn't care if they had any experience, but I said, if I could have an interview with them and talk to them and understand what was their purpose for wanting to work for me, what was their why, what are their goals that they're working towards.
I like that.
Yeah, like I'm working to save up to buy my first house for my wife, me and my, or I need to provide for my kids. Whatever their why was, I wanted guys that had that clearly defined, and if I would try to help them define it, but
I like that.
I didn't care if they had any experience, because I would take them to the basics, which is removing cabinet doors, sanding, cleaning them off, and doing the primer, because the primer is the easiest to spray in the booth. And we ended up getting a booth at our shop, and it's still there. We have this full spray booth that I ordered and set it up. And
do you use it anymore?
We still have 1 or 2 jobs a month refinishing, and I have two guys full time that'll do those jobs for me. But it's cut back, a tenth of what it was, and we really only want to do jobs that are larger. Like I'm talking 60 door and drawer fronts or more, because it's it makes 30 piece kitchens, unless it's all the bathrooms. It's too much labor and time I have to charge to make the margins that I need to make it make sense. So we ended up after I set up my booth, I did one more visit to Thomas Craven in he's in like Hollywood. And he has the highest end finishing shop. He does all the custom furniture tables for like movie stars. Like the highest, like a table for $30,000, like the best finish. And he was doing these type of jobs, and I went and I picked his brain, and I learned about the products he was using. And his shop was just a little too chaotic for me, because he had so many different pieces of furniture and different guys on all these different jobs. And I was like, man, I'd have to be here every day to just keep it running, just because it's
feel so safe that what's happening, that what needs to happen is happening.
And he was still working a ton, and he was in his late 50s. And I'm like,
you've got a different vision.
I want to be able to take time off in the business to operate, so that I can go take my kids on a trip.
You just did this recently, didn't you?
Yeah. You mean a trip?
Well, no. Yeah. I thought you got away and the business ran and everything was good.
I did. Finally, my first time on a long extended vacation.
Right. Okay.
Went to Minnesota.
How fun.
And that was almost 3 weeks that we were gone.
Awesome.
And the
congratulations.
business. Yeah.
That's a milestone, you've got to get a lot of systems in place and have guys or
Yeah.
people that you can trust, and customers and jobs that are well planned out. That's a task in construction, my friend.
I mean, it was a little bit, I was like, what's the worst that can happen when I go? I have these 3 jobs going.
Oh,
They're going to call
that.
me.
Yeah.
They're going to call me.
Yeah.
And most of the problems, like the jobs were pretty simple.
Mhm.
I'm like, the customer, may just have a question. And if they can't get a hold of me, I give them a point of contact for, Steven at the time.
Yeah.
He'll be able to solve it. And if it's really urgent, I'll check my phone one time in the evening.
Mm-hmm.
I'll get back to him. But the world doesn't end. There's always going to be little hiccups here and there.
Mm-hmm.
And as long as you convey that to the customer,
Mm-hmm.
You give them ideal, timeline if everything is perfect, but
Mm-hmm.
I always add buffer time for that.
Same. Fair expectations, a little bit of under promise and over deliver, just because I think that expectations are so important to people. My biggest snafus in life, almost altogether, have been unmet expectations or like unclear expectations,
Right.
So I would say, bingo, expectations are huge.
Yeah. The expectations, giving under promising, over delivering. That's
Mhm.
kind of, I never did that
Mhm.
early on. I was always trying to give customers, we'll do it in 2 weeks. And then
Mhm.
if it would take 3, like, hey, you said 2 weeks.
Oh yeah.
And 2 weeks is like phenomenal. Like
Yeah.
every other contractor
Yeah.
was telling them 4 weeks,
Mhm.
6 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So I realized, like, hey, why don't you say 4? You do it in 3,
Mm-hmm.
and they're extremely happy. So I started to do that, give buffer time, and
It's just it makes sense too in construction.
Yeah.
Like life is life. Like somebody's gonna have a flat tire, somebody's mom's gonna get sick, somebody's gonna break their toe.
Yeah.
We're gonna have rain for 4 days straight that we
Right.
never have. These things are gonna happen. So it just helps, like, just alleviate that a little bit. I just left a job where we basically did that. We're basically like, hey, for the next 2 weeks, we're gonna be in and out getting this completed. It's gonna take a week.
and
By
they
all
were
means,
fine with it.
by all means,
Yeah.
they were totally fine with it. But
Yeah.
like, by all means, it should really take 5 work days, but heaven forbid something happens, or, all of a sudden there's a PVC shortage, I've got a little bit of time to pivot. So I think it's important to build that in.
I know, absolutely. And I mean, so wrapping up, I guess I wanted to kind of shift it to you and
Nope.
how I wanted to ask you though, how, you're doing something similar, I think, with designing people's backyard. You get to, like David, in a sense, you get to kind of envision,
Mm-hmm.
help them to envision something, and you obviously put it into a
Mhm.
rendering.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, do you feel like you were always gifted? Like that's a gift of yours to be able to have a vision and create that? Or
That's a great question.
is it something you had
wasn't
to
ready for
learn?
that.
Was it naturally?
I mean,
Yeah.
I've always liked to sketch and draw, and I've been able to be, I guess, big picture. I think that would probably be my strong suit. Maybe not necessarily the design angle. I try to really listen to people and then put that back in front of them and say, how'd I do? I think the last one I did was pretty fun with Robert Neal. And this will air at a different time, so it'll be about a month ago. But it was really fun because he had an idea he came to the table with. I kind of tweaked it a little bit. He tweaked it back. And then, we ended up somewhere a little bit different than we both thought. So
Okay.
I would say not necessarily am I by any means Michelangelo. My designer who's on staff, Jaden, does a really wonderful job of getting creative, and imitation's the finest form of flattery. He'll look at a lot of different things that are going on in the space and then try to incorporate little nuggets into a design. We're going to film one tomorrow that is lights out, and he designed it from scratch. He's got that gift.
That's
My
awesome.
gift is probably more just big picture, just building the vision of the company, building the vision of the job, just being able to look at a job and go, yeah, that's $60K, and be within $2,000, like
great.
every time.
That's
So
skilled.
I have a different skill set
Okay.
than the Michelangelo,
Hey.
but I want you to talk a little bit more
Sure.
about how, because I think we share this passion. I'm just starting, so I'm not there yet. I think you've had a little bit more time, and I've seen a little bit more of your crew and some of your socials and stuff. And I think you're kind of nailing it on the training the guys and the mentoring, and it's clear that was always important to you. Right. I definitely want to get there. I'm not, again, just starting out. I am not there yet. That's in my big picture.
Okay.
100%. Talk to me about some ways that you've been able to hone in on that, and maybe some inspiration and maybe some hiccups where you're like, I thought this was going to go totally different.
Yeah. So every year at the beginning of the year, I think it's essential for yourself as a business owner and for your employees to write down what are your goals, financially. For us, my wife and I, we have, what are your financial goals, your fitness goals, your faith goals, your family goals, your friends goals? Like, how often do you want to see your family, friends, faith, farmhand, your chores around the house? And essentially going through all the F's.
Okay.
And it kind of nails everything. You're able to actually say, okay, so for us, it was, I want to save up to go on our trip to see our family in Minnesota for, 3 weeks, or we want to save up for purchasing our Sprinter van that we were able to buy. And we have these little tiny goals, and that helps me to refocus, at least when I'm working. Like, okay, I need to do these little things that I don't like doing, which maybe, on a slow time, proactively calling some of these reps, popping into suppliers,
negotiating pricing, networking,
being consistent with BNI, waking up and preparing and doing all the little things so that you can see the fruits of your labor. So I did that with my employees. I would sit down, and really it goes back to understanding their why and helping them to define it, so that they can really say, okay,
creates buy-in, I think is where you're going.
Yeah. Buy-in. They know they're clearly defining their roles, what I expect of them. These are your responsibilities. These are your roles. Here's your pay, because this is the value right now that your skill set's generating. I'm actually a lot of the times I would say, hey, I'm investing in you, hoping you're not quite where I need you to be to pay you, this $25 an hour. But if you learn X, Y, and Z, and you're able to take these new responsibilities, that can increase your pay an additional $2.50. And then eventually, if you get to the point where you're running a job start to finish, that'll be a $30 an hour plus, 1%, 2%, 3% of the total job as a commission once it's closed on time, and we're on budget. Yeah. So I give them ways to potentially earn more. And then I think that gives them even more buy-in to want to commit to learning something,
And how do you keep the team vibes going? Because you're on the job with a couple of guys at a time, right? Yeah. Or how does your business kind of work on the day-to-day? You've gone away from the painting and you're more into more renovation side of things.
Yeah, more I'd say kitchen cabinets and showers. We do a lot of those. Okay. Sometimes flooring or full house, but it can be at any given time. We'll generally have a new cabinet install, one shower, and then maybe a couple countertop jobs. So I'll just try to check in, but I'll check in with the guys, but I don't micromanage them. I tell them, hey, these are my expectations, and I set certain. I utilize the software that we have. We use House, and I'm able to create checklists of what things I need done. Like, I try to pick the three most important things for the week to assign to the guys. And then I say, hey, if whatever you're doing proactively or whatever you're doing on a job, make sure you put the notes in there so I can go back and just take a look at. I'm not going to look every day, but if I need to check on what was done, what's left to do at the job, it's really critical you put the notes in so that I don't have to call you and say, hey, what's left? I can go in the app and see everything at a glance. And then, like I said, giving them freedom. I feel like the guys are, I feel like there's more trust. Yeah. And one of my closest friends since kindergarten works with me. He's been with me for 5 years, and he has a company truck. I trust him. I don't even check on him. I'll give him the job where he's going, schedule him out, and he goes and gets it done. And we just mesh together really well. And he's like my right-hand man.
I love that.
So, I'm blessed to have, his name's Andre. He's, he had no experience in contracting, kind of all on the job training. And now I'd say he's better than me at a lot of tasks, like trim carpentry, setting cabinets. He can prep showers. Like, he learned all of this.
So he's definitely bought in.
Yeah, he's bought in. Yeah. And he's, I've raised his pay significantly from where he started.
Love it.
Now I'd say he's making, a competitive salary of what college grads would make, because he's committed and he's been with me like 5 years. So, but yeah, I think
I think that answers that perfectly. Do you have any stretch goals or growth orientated stuff that might revolve around, just either metrics or maybe company culture or personal or anything like that? I know maybe don't start with it, because I know you'll finish talking about it, but touch on your kind of your YouTube golf desires as well, but don't start there.
Okay. I won't start there. So my father-in-law, my sister's husband's dad, I call my father-in-law. He's built and sold. He built and sold a very, very successful company, had a few hundred employees, and he currently owns an electrical company with a few hundred employees that he's 50% owner of. And I ask him he's kind of now my mentor.
I bet he better.
And I pick his brain all the time.
I would like to pick his brain too.
I'd be happy. Let's go. He's very generous with his time, and we go up to his house, and he loves cars. He's got a beautiful 30, 40 car collection in his garage.
Fun.
Like, amazing cars. He's really, really generous. His name's Jared. And I asked him, I said, Jared, like, I got to the point where I was doing over $1 million. What do I have to do to get to the next level? He's like, you have to go all in. You either kind of stay, you're not shrinking, because if you're not growing, you're shrinking. That's kind of the mentality that I've always learned. But you either go all in and you triple your staff, and you get to the next barrier, which is 3x of what you're currently doing. So you get 3 times the guys, 3 times the office staff, and you go really hard at marketing, and you just grow. You just go all in. And I am still debating on. I'm trying to make it work where I can grow without having to commit to all of that overhead and hiring on all the staff, because I remember, 2020 where I had, 25,000 every 2-week payroll, and I was stressed because I wanted everybody to get paid, and I'm waiting on a $30,000-$40,000 check from a customer, and they're like, "Hey, I can't meet you tonight," and it's like, what am I going to do here? I need to pay these people. You know?
Real talk.
So really, I think the goal right now, I'm going to get my website. I have a new software. It's incredible. We'll have, maybe touch upon that later. It geotags all of your reviews, and it teaches Google. Google's your number one customer. 70% of service businesses, their inbound leads come from Google searches on people's phones. Yeah. So have
you developed a software? Or
I hired a company. It's a tool.
Okay.
Simply a tool.
Okay.
They give you the plugin into your website, and you have to manually enter. So when you get a Google review, you put the customer's photos, all of the job tags, the description, and you respond to the review and their address, and it geotags it and teaches Google exactly where that service area is. So when somebody's searching around their house, that customer's house that you've done a job for, it'll ping you and it essentially gets you to the top of the search results. So it's a game changer. It's a game changer. Okay. So I think with that, I can hopefully, get to the 2-3 million without having to hire a ton of employees. And primarily I utilize I do have a lot of subs that are on my team, but they're not W-2. For tax purposes, I use them, but they also have other contractors they work for, and then, kind of scale it there. But I care more about being home with my wife and kids than growing and having a $3, $4, $5 million business.
Mhm.
As of right now, if I had a
Mhm.
partner
Mhm.
that was really invested working, it may be different. So,
Sure.
and then I think to end with what you were mentioning,
Yeah.
so I enjoy, while I'm not working and taking care of the 5
Mhm.
kids, 5
Mhm.
under 7, 7
Mm.
and under, I should
Oh
say.
my goodness.
It's pretty
Wow.
crazy.
You signed up for
Um,
it. Congrats though. We need
hey,
more kids.
I love
Period.
them, man. I come
Yeah.
home, they run up, dad, 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 and they love you.
Mm.
They keep you young. And
Mhm.
I'm going to start, I play golf. I'm an avid golfer.
Mhm.
So I'm going
Mhm.
to start a YouTube channel with my buddy Rob. And
Okay.
we're gonna do a series qualifying for the Arizona Amateur.
How
And
fun.
document the progress. My 1 or 2 days a week that I get to practice,
Mhm.
we'll have practice rounds. And right now I got a swing coach for the first time, and I went from like a 4 or 5 handicap to now I'm a +1
Mhm.
and broke 70. So I'm like,
That's a big deal.
hey, if a business owner, a dad of 5 can put in the work and
Mhm.
get down to basically, scratch,
Mhm.
I think a lot of people would resonate, and they'd say, hey, I want to do what drills he's doing because I have a limited time to practice.
Mhm.
And I just try to make it the most effective, practice.
I like that niche because so I moved here 3 years ago, and I used to be a golfer in Oregon, and it just got to be too much. You could only really golf 4 months out of the year consistently because of the weather, or you're slopping in the mud or something,
Yeah.
or you hit a drive and it's just,
Mud balls.
Yeah. And so I've gotten back into it out here. And so I've watched different YouTube channels and stuff, but also business owner, father, husband.
Yeah.
I'm involved in the church. And so it is limited time. So I think I will be watching this, but I
Hey,
like the angle. I think it'll have a really good shot.
I'm hoping to just bring in great other business
Mhm.
owners, other
Mhm.
good golfers, and just have some fun, but also set goals, kind of like business. Like set a
Mhm.
goal. Hey, we're
Mhm.
going to achieve this. Watch us on our journey. So
Mhm.
they get kind of
Invested.
invested.
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, I want to see him
100%.
excel, and then learn how to practice better and just have fun with it. So
What would you say, gonna steal some of your thunder here a little bit maybe.
sure.
So it sounds like maybe the swing coach could be your answer, but is there anything else that was like the aha moment for you that really, you've been golfing for a while?
Yeah.
Was there one turning point where you're like, okay, if I had to, it was these new clubs, it was this hour a week, it was this swing coach, it was this mindset, or maybe one thing that was like, man, this was it?
I would say if I could boil it down to 3 points, it
Okay.
would be getting fitted for my irons
Ooh, I haven't done that
properly.
yet.
I went to Kierland in Scottsdale, and they fit
Oh
me.
my gosh.
Ping. I got the custom ping
Let's
irons,
go.
and first time I ever bought new clubs. Every
Mhm.
other set was used.
Yeah, same.
So fitted for those as well as the driver. I went and
Okay.
shaft is everything with
Mhm.
driver head. So
Mhm.
you want to have the proper. It's like that proper engine.
What's
in your
yours?
car. So I have an extra stiff flex.
Okay.
280 shaft.
Okay.
Kind of like similar to what Hideki Matsuyama plays with.
Okay. Is
So-
it pretty stiff?
Yeah, it's extra stiff. So
Okay.
70 grams
Okay.
is my preference. And then, so getting the proper club shaft.
Mhm.
Driver head doesn't really matter. You could
I
play
almost feel that
TaylorMade,
way. Yeah.
Callaway.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're all going to be very similar,
Mhm.
but the shaft's everything.
Okay.
So that's number one. I'd say number two,
So fitted.
fitted. Number two, don't spend all the time on the range.
Mhm.
I used to only 80%, 90% of my practice would be hitting range balls, and I would chip and putt for 10, 20% of the time.
Mhm.
I switched it. So I chip and I putt 80%,
Mhm.
and I hit range 20%.
Okay.
Because I'm never going to get dialed into the point where I'm in a pro circle. I'm going to hit greens or be really close on par
Mhm.
fives. And if I can
Mhm.
get up and down and make birdie
Mhm.
on all the par fives,
Yeah.
that's 4 birdies around on,
Mhm.
average course.
Mhm.
That's where I really take advantage in scoring.
Mhm. I
And
like
then-
the mindset. Okay.
Yeah. It's like, I don't care if I hit it close. I just need to be around the green, and I
Mhm.
have so much confidence I can get up and down pretty
Mhm.
much anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So that's shifting to short game. And in the channel, we'll have a bunch of small like games that people can play that are fun.
Okay.
So it makes it actually enjoyable. And then number 3 is course management. So my Spencer, we went out on the course probably half a dozen times. And he would ask me after I hit a shot.
Are you playing like a whole round with him? Or like a couple holes?
3 to 6 holes, maybe 9 holes. You know, it just depends on how long. I do an hour, 2 hours, depending. Going out to the course. Yeah. And hitting, basically he's asking me, what are you aiming at?
What's your goal?
Yeah. Like, what are you, tell me where you're aimed. Okay. I'm aiming left center of the fairway because if I miss left, I'm safe. Right's dead. Okay, good. And then he's like, okay, tell me how are you playing this next shot? Well, I'll describe the lie, say, okay, it's a little bit, it's in the rough. It might come out a little hot, less spin. So I'm going to play less club and kind of do like an 80% swing and kind of flight it lower. Like I'll try to
really describe the perfect shot so that at least, if you're aiming for the moon, you're still among the stars.
So it's like course management as well as like proper club selection. And if I go attack a pin, he's like, why did you go after that pin when you had 20 yards past on the green to go and you're short side? Like, I'm like, yeah, that's true. So by him asking questions when I would hit shots, I could find the gaps in my game, my weaknesses. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to remember not to fire for that pin and just fire for the center of the green or be long, if anything, because then I'm at least putting, so that would be course management. So yeah, fitting, short game, practice 80%, and then proper course management.
You're such a good teacher. You're going to nail it. I can tell just from, so we met through BNI. You invited me to a BNI presentation and I went and I'm like, yeah, this is a winner. Got in on it, but you really teach well at our BNI classes. When we had our one-on-one, you were really helpful and a teacher mindset. So you got to have some lucky employees there as well. And then you're going to kill it at the golf aspect as well when it comes to explaining what you're doing. Even if you're not, pro level, I think you'll be able to express what's going to help these people really well.
Thank you. That's the goal.
Really well.
I'm pumped, man. I wanted to always teach. That was my passion. I want to teach.
Clearly.
I have to. So maybe this is a way. I'm not going to be in a classroom, be in my favorite setting.
Do you see anybody in your organization kind of rising up to, that's a tough question. Let me rephrase that. I can tell you like to teach and you like to mentor. Do you see yourself, actually actively pursuing that outside of the golf angle in any other facets of life?
I have told my wife, when I'm done here, I would love to go back and help students that have visions to create businesses, like create a plan and go do it. Like I've helped at least 2 or 3 of my friends and one of my neighbors. I helped them start their business.
How fun.
And like that, for me, I get excited to help, even though I'm not a part of it, like giving them insight, saying, hey, do this. This is what you should start first.
You know what you're doing though. What you're giving, the gift you're giving is really valuable. You're giving water to that thirsty person,
teaching them to fish. They can feed themselves for a lifetime, hopefully. But yeah, that's kind of, I don't know what that looks like. If there's a course or professor of, I guess entrepreneurship perhaps. That would be a dream job.
Okay. So there's maybe a next step. Yeah. I love it. So, what a great guest. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on, and you've got the gift of teaching and storytelling. I could do this for probably like another hour.
Yeah. I don't know how long we've been going for, but
we've been going for a minute. So okay. I'm going to let you close us out. How do people get a hold of you? What are maybe some target jobs? And then, I don't know, maybe any last minute advice that you might have thought of.
So I'll give a brief BNI presentation, if you will, a good referral.
Yeah.
That would be anybody looking for new cabinets in their kitchen, looking for painting, of refinishing of their cabinets, flooring, showers. You may have an old property, a distressed property. We do rendering similar to Eric.
Okay.
We can do a 3D rendering for your space.
That's so helpful.
And we have a vision board where we attach it. So the wives, maybe the husbands, want to upload their designs. We can see their vision and we can create a rendering for you.
I want to talk about that.
But yeah, you can reach us on our website, Redemption Renovations. Don't forget the S.com.
Okay.
RedemptionRenovations.com, or, Instagram, Google search us. We pop up hopefully now.
Good. Yeah, you better.
So we have 60 reviews, I believe. So my goal by next year, end of next year, is to get to 100.
Let's get it.
So on my way there. But I really appreciate your time, Eric. And we met in the parking lot I called you off of your pegboard. So if you're a business owner, bring your cards and hang them up in coffee shops, because I grabbed Eric's card off of a coffee shop pegboard.
Wow Lemonade.
Or Wow Lemonade.
Yeah,
Actually, that smoothie shop.
Yep.
Called him up and said, "Hey, I want to invite you. We need a landscaper in our BNI chapter." And
timing was perfect.
I mean, it was perfect. And all the members talk about how professional Eric is, and he's, you're just an asset to the group now. And I get all the credit. I know you do. You're really bringing them in. I brought in you, and they're like, bring some more. So I have a stack of cards that I'm going to call about 50 businesses and try to get our membership up. Cool. But it was just a blessing, that we connected. So it's been fantastic. Adam, thank you so much from Raising the Grade. We'll catch you next time. Cheers. Thank you.